the paintings speak for themselves, the way they are distributed all over the world, bought by people from all walks of life. We wouldn't do so if it didn't appeal to them. And yes, I'm very, very proud to be his daughter and enjoy, particularly now, to see that at long last, in this country, he has been acknowledged the way he should have been. Well, my father arrived here, I think it was 1940, gosh, I think 48. I was 8 years old, and I'd never seen him or remembered him at all. And he arrived with very little, a few of the paintings that he had painted while he was in house arrest after he was released from the concentration camp. These were posters that were put in the windows of the department store to advertise the exhibition. This is a telegram that my mother got to say that my father was alive and safe, and he had been inquiring about her. This is obviously through the Red Cross, and at present, and he will be coming back to South Africa to her, but they will notify her nearer to the time. I can just imagine what she must have felt, not knowing whether he was dead or alive, to suddenly get this telegram. My mother was living in a one-bedroom flat and didn't have much money. She used to earn a living teaching Russian. And as a result, you know, space and also rebuilding their married life, I was put into boarding school. So then my father went about trying to establish himself. So he went to the Association of Arts here, which is the main art hub here. But they didn't want to know anything about him. They thought he was very sort of, well, the way he painted bright colours, that he had no classical training, and they refused to allow him to exhibit in their galleries. So that is how he ended up going to the department stores. People often used to say, "Tretchi, I love your paintings, but I wish I could afford them." And he sort of listened to that, and he came home and he said, "Mama, you know what? They keep on telling me they want to buy the paintings and they can't. So why don't I make prints?" Well, that set up such a storm. You're commercial, you're this, you're that. So he just didn't care. He carried on. And today they're all doing it. But he was way ahead of his time. And the other thing I'd like to say, my father wasn't just an artist. He was a businessman, which is a very unusual combination. And I think that's what stood him in very good stead, and also exposed his art through his prints to the normal people, you know, who normally may not be interested in art, but they liked what they saw. And as I said, today you can see the result. His legacy definitely was his art. And also, I think he also showed people a way that, you know, with everything against him, he just kept going, regardless. He had that tenacity. I'm going to paint and I don't care what they say. If I can't exhibit here, I'll find somewhere else, which he did. I mean, they broke into his studio before this trip to America. They slashed his paintings. I tell you, and they wrote to all the various cities that he was going to exhibit in to say that he doesn't represent South Africa as an artist, so, you know, they don't want to have any association with him, which is, I don't think one could do that nowadays. But he just went on regardless. So he had a sort of way of saying, as I said, follow your passion, which he did. Because they didn't want him to go. You see, the trouble is, the more they slated him, the more money he made. And he said, just keep going, because the more you do that, it's better for me. And his famous saying, I just laugh all the way to the bank, which he did. And I think that sort of, it got them up. And he was a nice guy. He didn't want to cause any trouble, but he also wanted to exist and earn a living. So he just went ahead. And he was a great success. The department stores loved him. And, you know, Harrods, he went to exhibit there, and they said to him that, okay, well, we'll make a space for you. And he says, no, I want the whole floor, which they did. And you want to see how beautifully it was done. He had 200,000 people came to see the exhibition. Now, they don't do that if you don't have something that people want to see. And also they could understand his work. I think that was quite important. To the normal person, I'm not talking about the, you know, the art world. I'm talking about the normal person who maybe not normally go to an art exhibition and think, well, I want to see what this is all about. And then they go there and they love it, and then they buy the prints because they like the paintings. So he has left definitely a distinct mark and memory, which is now coming back in this next generation. And they're buying. And I mean, even on the TV now, in some of the programs you see, they've taken where they blow it right up and they put the whole painting on a wall. And you can see it there. When my father came back after the war, and as I said, we lived in a little bachelor room, and I was in boarding school, so he would paint in the room, and he would set up his easel, and we had a balcony and a door opening out and windows, and one day this pigeon flew in and sat on the easel, and well, we'll just say at this point in Russian, a bird is like that is very good luck. So my father was very thrilled, but then the bird was being a nuisance, and he said, okay, now shoot. So they called him Shkura, which in Russian means thick skin, because he just didn't listen to anything. But from that time on, my father had incredible luck, so this bird meant a hell of a lot. And then one day he just disappeared. And my father was devastated, but his luck didn't deteriorate as far as I remember. And that is why we've got this picture. And the portrait of that he painted of my mother and myself and the bird. This is my mother and me and Skura, but it wasn't finished because you can see I haven't got my plaits sitting on top. Can you see? As you can see, it's hardboard.